My fiance's family didn't invite me to Easter brunch, so I took a solo trip. Now they're begging me to come back, acting like it was all a misunderstanding. Okay, so let me just start by saying that I never thought something as simple as not being invited to a family event would turn into this. But here we are. I'm Nathan, 27M, and I've been with my fiancée, Charlotte, 26F, for 3 years. Everything's been great. Well, mostly. You know how family dynamics can be tricky, and Charlotte's family? They're a bit much. Her mom, Janet, is what I can only describe as passive-aggressively controlling. Her dad, George, is the type who always smiles and nods at everything Janet says, even when he knows it's ridiculous. Then there's her brother, Ethan, 24M, who's just the golden child. Always right, always praised. I've never really clicked with them, but Charlotte and I have been doing the whole family gatherings thing for a while now, so I thought I'd be okay this year. Now, Easter Sunday to be exact. I've always enjoyed Easter brunch, even though it's the same routine every year with her family, big meal, awkward small talk, a ton of baked goods. But this year, something felt off from the start. I was at Charlotte's place a few days before Easter when she casually mentioned that her mom had been going all out for the brunch this year. I, of course, asked if I was invited, since I had no reason to think I wouldn't be. I had been to every holiday event for the past 2 years, and to be honest, I thought I'd build a decent enough rapport with her family by now. I've always made the effort. I've helped cook, cleaned up, even pretended to like her mom's weird obsession with vintage china. Charlotte looked at me a little strangely when I asked. She didn't say anything at first, just a bit of an awkward pause. Finally, she said, "Oh, yeah. I think Mom mentioned you were invited. Let me double check. No big deal, right?" I figured it was just a small oversight. Or maybe they were still figuring out numbers for the brunch. But I didn't hear anything else from Charlotte after that. Days went by, and I assumed she'd get back to me. Well, Easter morning rolled around, and Charlotte went to her parents' house to help with the preparations. Still, no word on whether I was invited. I called her around noon to check in, and she was all happy and excited about how the brunch was going. But then, after a brief pause, she said, "Oh, by the way, you know my mom and dad decided to keep it just family this year?" My stomach sank, and I felt that familiar annoyance creep up. "Wait, so you're telling me they didn't invite me?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Charlotte went quiet for a moment. I think it just happened. They wanted to be more intimate this year." She said this in a way that felt more like she was trying to justify it than explain it. At this point, I was done. I felt completely shut out, not even an ounce of respect from her family. And Charlotte's response? She just seemed indifferent, like it wasn't a big deal. I was irritated, sure, but part of me thought, okay, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I should just let it go. But then, a few hours later, I saw Charlotte's Instagram post with her entire family gathered around the brunch table. Everyone was smiling, laughing, and there I was, alone in my apartment on Easter. No mention of me, no apology, just their perfect little family. That's when I decided, if they weren't going to include me, I wasn't going to sit around feeling sorry for myself. I packed my things, booked a last-minute flight, and went on a solo trip. I didn't care where I was going, just anywhere that wasn't here, wasn't stuck in that mess. The trip itself was exactly what I needed. I spent the next few days hiking through the mountains, exploring new towns, just enjoying my own company. It was refreshing, honestly. A far cry from the drama I'd left behind. Meanwhile, I was pretty sure Charlotte was freaking out. She'd been texting me a few times, asking if I was okay, but I didn't respond. She called once, and I let it go to voicemail. I was done, but I knew, in the back of my mind, that I'd have to face the music when I got back. When I finally returned, Charlotte was waiting for me at home. She had this look on her face, concern mixed with guilt, maybe? She immediately apologized, but not for what I thought she would. "Look, Nathan," she said, "I'm sorry about Easter, but I didn't know they wouldn't invite you. It wasn't intentional." But I knew better than to buy the "it wasn't intentional" line. This wasn't the first time I had been sidelined by her family, but I didn't know how much longer I could put up with it. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Charlotte's mom. Janet, I just wanted to say we're sorry for the misunderstanding. We'd love to have you over next weekend. Let's put the past behind us, shall we? I felt a rush of frustration. A misunderstanding? They had known what they were doing. I wasn't some afterthought. I wasn't going to be treated like this anymore. That's when I made up my mind. But I didn't answer right away. Instead, I put my phone down and looked at Charlotte. What's the deal, Charlotte? Are you really going to let them walk all over me like this? She opened her mouth to speak, but I could tell she wasn't ready for the conversation to go where I wanted it to go. But then, the phone buzzed again. This time, it was from George, Charlotte's dad. I just don't understand why you couldn't come back to brunch. It's all been a misunderstanding. Please, come over. Let's talk. It was a request, but it felt more like an order. And that was the final straw. The text from George hung in the air like a bad smell. I stared at it for a moment, my fingers frozen on the screen. He'd done it. He'd pulled the same move every single time. A mix of passive aggression with just enough feigned concern to make it look like he cared, when really it was all about control. I could practically hear his smug tone even without the voice memo. Charlotte, still standing in the living room, was watching me intently. I could tell she was waiting for me to respond, hoping I would just let it go, that I'd fall back into the pattern where I was the one who had to make peace. But I wasn't going to do that anymore. I set my phone down on the coffee table with a little too much force, the sound echoing in the quiet room. Seriously, I asked, my voice quieter than I meant it to be, but it still felt like a slap. Charlotte shifted, uncomfortable, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. She hated confrontation, but then she hated the idea of me getting upset with her family even more. Nathan, please. They didn't mean it. They're just, no. I cut her off, shaking my head. You've been saying that for 3 years. They didn't mean it. Every time they leave me out or make me feel like I'm not good enough to be part of the family, you say it's a misunderstanding or it's nothing personal. Her face tightened as she crossed her arms, clearly defensive. It's not like that, Nathan. They're just not used to you being a permanent part of things. And I stood up, the frustration bubbling over now. Used to me? I've been your boyfriend for 3 years. I've done everything they've asked. I've sat through hours of mind-numbing small talk, listened to your mom's terrible advice on how I should be living my life, and eaten the blandest food known to man just to be polite. And this is what I get? They decide I'm not good enough for their little Easter brunch, and I should just be okay with that. Charlotte flinched as I spoke, but she didn't interrupt. I took a deep breath and ran my hand through my hair, pacing in frustration. You know what the worst part is? It's not even the fact that they left me out. It's that they think they can do whatever they want, and then just sweep it under the rug like it never happened. You let them get away with it every time. And now they think it's all just a big misunderstanding? Are they really that dumb? Or are you? Charlotte's face paled. The words stung, I could tell. But part of me didn't care. If she wasn't going to stand up to her family, then maybe it was time for me to. Her eyes flicked to the phone, then back to me. I don't want to fight, Nathan. You know I don't. Can we just talk to them? See if we can't work it out? It wasn't enough. It wasn't nearly enough. I could feel my blood starting to simmer beneath my skin. I had been patient. I had been the good boyfriend who showed up, who tolerated their rude comments and their passive-aggressive barbs just because I loved her. But now, it was like they had taken that patience and trampled on it. I had tried to ignore it, I really had, but this was the final straw. I'm done, Charlotte, I said, my voice quieter but no less firm. I'm done being the afterthought. I'm done waiting around for an invitation. You know what I'm going to do. She shook her head, almost pleading now, but I wasn't stopping. I'm not going to go back, Charlotte. I'm not going to play nice and pretend everything's fine when they treat me like garbage. They can beg all they want, but I'm not the one who's going to apologize. Not anymore. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Her lips trembled like she wanted to speak, but the words weren't coming out. And I could see it in her eyes, the realization that she might not be able to fix this. Before she could respond, my phone buzzed again. Another text. This time, It was from Janet, Charlotte's mom. Look, I don't know what's gotten into you, Nathan, but this whole thing with Easter isn't something to throw away our relationship over. Please come to the house next weekend. We can make things right. We're family, and you're part of that, whether you like it or not. It was almost laughable. Part of that? If that was true, why was I being treated like a stranger? Why was I always the last one to know about family plans, the last one to get an invite? She made it sound like I was the one making a scene, like I was the one causing all the drama. And that's when it hit me. They had been doing this for years. Slowly, bit by bit, they had been chipping away at me, testing my boundaries, seeing how much they could get away with. And Charlotte? She was caught right in the middle of it. She didn't know what was real anymore, her family's version of love or the one she was trying to build with me. I stared at the message for a moment, my thumb hovering over the reply button. I could go the easy route and just say, "Fine, I'll come over. We can talk." I could pretend to smooth things over, avoid the discomfort, and let them win again. But the thought of walking into their house, pretending like nothing happened, made my stomach turn. So, I did what I thought I would never do. I hit block. Janet's number. Blocked. Then, George's number. Blocked. Charlotte's eyes widened, and I could see her fighting to hold back tears. "Nathan, what are you doing?" "This is my decision, Charlotte," I said, my voice a little firmer than I intended. "I'm not going to be treated like this anymore, and I'm not going to sit around while they play their little games. This is my life too, and if you're not going to stand up for me, then I'm done." I expected her to argue, to try to make me see reason. But instead, she just stared at me, her eyes wide and confused. It was like she couldn't even recognize the person standing in front of her anymore. I thought you'd understand," she whispered. Her words hit harder than I expected. I hadn't realized it until then, but in her eyes, I was the one who was supposed to just understand. Understand the way her family was. Understand how things had always been. Understand that they would always come first, no matter how much they hurt me. That was the real issue. And now, the real question was whether I could stay with someone who was okay with it. I stood there, the weight of her words hanging in the air, making everything feel colder. Charlotte's face had softened, like she was losing something precious, but the anger inside me was starting to bubble up again. The hurt from being excluded, from being treated like an afterthought, it was all still there. But now, it wasn't just about me. It was about them. The way they'd manipulated her, used her love for me to keep me in check while they did whatever they wanted. I couldn't just let it go. Not anymore. "Understand?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but it still felt like it sliced through the room. "Do you even get it, Charlotte? Do you understand how much I've put up with from your family? How much I've tried to be a part of it, to fit in, just to be treated like an outsider?" Her eyes were glossy now, but she didn't say anything. I could tell she was processing it, but she wasn't really listening. Not in the way I needed her to. I could feel the anger starting to shift into something else, a kind of cold determination. The kind of feeling you get when you realize that the only way to get what you deserve is to make them see the consequences of their actions. They hadn't just excluded me. They'd pushed me aside as though I didn't matter, like I was disposable. And now, they were acting like everything was fine. They wanted me back on their terms, just so they could sweep this under the rug. I couldn't let them get away with that. I took a deep breath and stepped away from Charlotte, pulling my phone back out of my pocket. She watched me, not saying a word, and I could tell she knew what was coming. I started with Janet. I opened up her contact, her name glaring at me on the screen. My thumb hovered for a second over the option to call her, but I wasn't interested in talking. I wasn't about to let her twist the situation into something that was my fault. I clicked on the message thread instead. The message she'd sent earlier flashed on my screen. "We're family, Nathan. You're part of that, whether you like it or not." It was condescending, and it made my blood boil all over again. I had to control myself, though. This wasn't about yelling or screaming. It was about making them regret ever thinking they could treat me like this. I typed carefully, my fingers moving slowly over the screen. I wasn't going to let emotion cloud my judgment. This had to be perfect. "You're right, Janet. I am part of the family. and I deserve better than to be treated as an afterthought. So here's my decision. I won't be coming to your house next weekend. In fact, I don't think I'll be coming around at all. I've realized something important. If you can't respect me as an equal in your family, I'm not going to keep pretending like I belong. Consider this the last time I make an effort. I read the message over a few times, my thumb hovering over the send button. I almost felt sorry for her, but not enough to stop. She had it coming. After a moment of hesitation, I pressed send and watched the text disappear into the void. There. It was done. Next, I moved on to George. Same story. I clicked his contact, his text from earlier still sitting at the top. I don't understand why you couldn't come back to brunch. Yeah, well, I was sure he didn't understand a lot of things. Like how his own actions could drive someone away. But I wasn't going to explain it to him. I started typing again, carefully choosing each word. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about making them see me. To make them realize that I wasn't going to let them walk all over me anymore. I don't know what your idea of family is, George, but it's clear that it doesn't include me unless I'm convenient for you. I'm not some backup plan. I've given enough of myself to be part of your family, and it's obvious you don't care about that. So, I'm done. I won't be attending any more family gatherings, and I won't let you manipulate me into thinking I'm the problem here. Send. I felt a rush of satisfaction, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. Not when I knew how they'd treat Charlotte if I wasn't around. I had to get her to see how deep this went, how much they had twisted her perception of what was right and wrong. Charlotte hadn't moved since I had sent the last messages. She was standing by the window, looking out, her back to me. I took a deep breath, bracing myself for the next part. Charlotte, I said, my voice softer now, but no less serious. She didn't turn around. I'm not going to keep fighting for a family that doesn't even know how to treat me with respect, but I'm going to make sure they understand that. Her shoulders tensed, and I could hear her take in a shaky breath. What are you talking about, Nathan? I'm going to expose everything, I said, my voice growing stronger as I spoke. I'm not going to let them keep treating me like an outsider and then act like nothing happened. I'm going to show them what happens when they think they can get away with this kind of behavior. And I'm going to do it in a way that's going to make them regret every single time they made me feel small. Charlotte turned then, her face pale, but her expression serious now. What do you mean, expose? Nathan, please don't do anything crazy. This is family. It's not worth ruining things over. You don't get it, I said, shaking my head. They've already ruined things. They've been taking advantage of you, of us, for years. And now, I'm going to make sure they know that there are consequences for treating people like this. You might not see it yet, but I'm doing this for us. For me. She swallowed hard, her voice trembling. I don't want to lose you over this, Nathan. You won't, I said firmly, staring her down. But they'll lose me. And they'll lose you, too, if you don't stand up to them. There was a long pause, and I could see her thinking it over, her mind racing as she tried to balance the life she knew with the reality I was presenting. Then, finally, she spoke. What exactly do you plan to do? I smiled, but it wasn't a happy one. Everything I can. And I'm starting with the social media posts. Her eyes widened. I could tell she wasn't prepared for that, but she wasn't stopping me now. I grabbed my phone again and opened up my social media. It was time to make a statement. Time for them to know that I wasn't just going to disappear into the background. I had a right to be heard, and if they wanted to treat me like nothing, I was going to make sure everyone knew the truth. First, I posted the text messages from Janet and George. The ones where they tried to downplay everything, acting like it was all a misunderstanding. I added a caption. Here's a little peek into how my girlfriend's family has treated me over the past few years. Just thought it was time to show you how they really feel. Then, I posted a photo from the last family gathering I had attended. It was a picture of me sitting at the edge of the table, my plate barely touched, and the others in the background laughing, talking, completely ignoring me. I could hear the voices in the room in my head as I looked at it. You're part of the family, Nathan, they'd all said. We're so glad you could make it. But I had known. I had always known that they didn't mean it. The caption for that one was a little harsher. This is how they make me feel every time I try to be a part of their world. It's not enough just to show up, but I'm done trying to make them care. As I hit post on the last image, I felt a strange sense of relief. It wasn't over, not by a long shot, but it felt like a release. The burden of being invisible, of constantly pretending to be okay with their treatment of me, it was lifted. Charlotte had been watching me the whole time, but she didn't say anything. She was just standing there, silent and still. I could see the tears in her eyes, but she wasn't crying. She was just stunned. "I'm sorry," she said finally, her voice small. "But I can't stop you. I guess I've been blind, haven't I?" I didn't say anything for a moment. Instead, I just watched her. She looked different, smaller somehow, like she was seeing me for the first time. Maybe this was the wake-up call she needed. Maybe not. "It's not just about you, Charlotte," I said softly. "It's about me. It's about standing up for myself. I'm not going to let them walk all over me anymore. And I'm not going to let you think that their behavior is acceptable." She nodded slowly, tears still in her eyes, but I could tell she was processing it. She was finally seeing the truth. We didn't say anything else for a while. The room was heavy with the weight of everything that had been unsaid for so long. I felt drained, but it was a good kind of exhaustion. The kind that comes after you've finally spoken the truth. I knew that what I'd just done was a risk. Posting those messages, exposing the way Janet and George had treated me, it was going to cause a storm. And I wasn't sure how Charlotte would respond, either. But I couldn't live in this silence anymore. I had to do it for me. I had to stand up for myself, even if it meant losing everything else. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Janet was the first to text. "What is this, Nathan? Why are you airing our family's dirty laundry in public?" I almost laughed. The irony was unbearable. She had no idea how much she just exposed herself. George followed soon after. "This is really childish, man. You're making a scene for no reason. Come to your senses before you make a bigger fool out of yourself." It was exactly what I expected. They were mad, but more importantly, they were scared. Scared of the truth coming out. Scared that their control over Charlotte, and by extension, me, was slipping. And then there was a message from Charlotte. I'd been waiting for it, but it still hit me like a ton of bricks. "I don't know what to do, Nathan. I'm really sorry. This is all so much, and I don't know if I can handle losing you or my family." I stared at her message for a long time. She wasn't ready to make a choice. Not yet. She still thought there was a way to fix things, to make everyone happy. But I knew better now. I responded simply, "I can't keep pretending everything's fine when it's not. If you want to stay in that world, I understand. But I can't go back." So here's where I'm at. I've been struggling with the way my fiancé's family has treated me for years. They've always excluded me, made me feel like I wasn't really part of their world, and to be honest, I was just tired of pretending everything was okay. The Easter brunch thing was the last straw, and I decided to take a solo trip instead of showing up to be treated like I was invisible. After I posted some of the text messages and a few pictures showing how they've treated me, now they're all blowing up my phone, acting like I've crossed a line and that I should come to my senses. But here's the kicker: Charlotte's torn. She's apologizing, but she's also afraid of losing both me and her family. And to be real, I'm not sure if I want to go back, especially now that I've made my stance clear. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole here? I feel like I did what was necessary for my own mental health, but I'm also aware that it's a lot to handle. I guess I'm just wondering if I've completely overstepped, or if I was justified in doing what I did. Would love to hear your thoughts.